Rain hammered the windshield as Michael Bennett pulled his old pickup to the curb. Through the downpour, he spotted a woman in scrubs huddled beneath a flickering bus stop light, shoulders trembling, not from cold, but from tears. He hesitated. His daughter was waiting at school in 20 minutes. But something in the woman's posture, defeated yet dignified, made him roll down the window. "Need a ride?" he asked. He expected a polite refusal. Instead, she looked up, eyes reflecting exhaustion deeper than any sleepless night could cause. That rainy Tuesday in Portland would change everything. For both of them. Michael measured his life in sawdust and promises kept. Each morning before dawn, he crept across creaking floorboards to make breakfast for 9-year-old Emma, then slipped down to his workshop. The scent of pine, varnish, and quiet determination filled the small space below their 2-bedroom apartment. Every piece he built, tables, chairs, toy chests, held stories he couldn't say aloud. On the counter upstairs, a half-empty coffee mug stood beside Emma's cereal bowl. A pink hair tie looped around his calloused fingers as he wrestled with her morning braid. "Hold still, pumpkin," he'd mutter, brow furrowed in concentration. It was their ritual. It made the house feel whole. 6 years earlier, Catherine, his ex-wife, had chosen a new life in New York over their family. The visits became infrequent, the calls short, the excuses polished. Michael never badmouthed her. He filled the photo albums instead, with beach trips, picnics, projects they built together. Just him and Emma. Neighbors knew him as the quiet handyman who refused payment. He fixed Mrs. Abernathy's cupboards, stabilized a single mother's wobbly table, built a stool for the elderly couple upstairs. "It's nothing," he'd say, embarrassed by gratitude. Money was always tight. His ledger book told the story. Emma's art class fees squeezed between utility bills and insurance payments. Lunches skipped to afford school supplies. But every night ended the same. 1 bedtime story, 2 kisses, 3 questions about her day. Then, alone in the dim workshop, he'd sand under a hanging bulb until fatigue dulled his thoughts. The empty space beside him on the couch stayed untouched. Dating never crossed his mind. His heart, once soft as fresh cedar, had been sealed against the weather. Yet every Friday night, he and Emma kept their tradition, Rocky Road ice cream and Monopoly. She always won, and he always pretended not to let her. 30 minutes across town, Sophia Chin peeled off her gloves after a 14-hour shift at Portland County Hospital. Once, she had been the rising star of Boston Children's Hospital, respected, published, engaged to a neurosurgeon. Now she was a new nurse practitioner in an underfunded facility with a tarnished reputation and an empty apartment. Her fall began with numbers that didn't add up. Cheap drug substitutions, altered charts, kids reacting to cost-cutting measures. She'd spoken up, filed reports, refused to stay quiet. The whistleblower complaint cost her everything but her license. Her fiancé had ended their engagement with clinical precision. "I can't be associated with this." Now her life fit inside moving boxes. 1 mug, 1 plate, a mattress on the floor. She survived on hospital coffee and persistence. But she still made origami cranes for frightened children, still stayed late reviewing charts. Integrity was the one possession she hadn't lost. That night, her phone was dead. The bus had stopped running. Rain turned her umbrella inside out. She stood shivering under a broken shelter, tears mingling with the storm, when headlights cut to the curtain of water. "Need a ride?" The voice carried no judgment, just concern. The pickup was old but spotless, its driver's smile cautious yet kind. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. She had nothing left to lose. Inside, the heater coughed warm air. "Michael Bennett," he said simply, without asking her name. The radio murmured an acoustic cover of an old song. The wipers moved like a metronome, marking the silence between strangers. Then his phone rang. "Hey, pumpkin." His tone softened instantly. "Homework again? The water cycle?" He fumbled for words. Sophia leaned closer. "Imagine the sun giving water tiny wings," she said gently, "and when they get cold, they fall back down as rain." Emma's delighted voice over the phone, "Oh, I get now," made Michael smile with quiet gratitude. For the first time in months, Sophia felt something close to peace. At her building, she searched her bag for fare, empty. Michael waved it off. Pay it forward someday. When his truck disappeared into the rain, she realized that simple kindness had pierced through all the loneliness her career had built around her. 3 days later, Michael's phone rang mid-shift. Emma had fallen at recess. Concussion. Hospital visit recommended. The 20-minute drive to Portland County felt endless. Then, her voice. Emma Bennett? The woman from the rainstorm, now in scrubs, professional and composed. The rain lady. Emma blurted, breaking the tension. Sophia smiled, kneeling at eye level, explaining every step of the exam. You'll be fine, she said, winking. But only if you let me bring you a popsicle later. Her calm steadied Michael's panic. He noticed how other staff deferred to her, how even doctors listened. There was authority beneath her humility. 2 weekends later, Michael and Emma set up their woodworking booth at the farmer's market. Cutting boards, wooden toys, salt cellars, all polished and neat. Emma, wearing her hand-knitted beanie, arranged pine cone animals proudly. Through the crowd, Sophia appeared, shopping for vegetables. Emma waved. Hi, rain lady. Sophia laughed, approaching shyly. They spoke awkwardly at first, then eased into conversation about cooking. She admitted, I usually microwave dinner for one. Cooking alone feels like too much effort. Her fingers lingered on a maple cutting board, tracing its grain before setting it down. Michael noticed her small grocery bag. A single pepper, 2 apples, a handful of kale. Enough for one meal. That night, without quite knowing why, he crafted a smaller version of that board, this time just for her. Spring returned, and the community garden opened. Michael and Emma tended their patch faithfully, coaxing lettuce and carrots from damp soil. Sophia appeared one Sunday, trying to rescue overwatered tomato plants in the abandoned corner plot. You're drowning them, Emma declared, hands on hips. Plants need space to breathe, like people. Sophia laughed, accepting their impromptu lesson. Soon, she joined their Sunday routine. Sandwiches on a weathered bench, Emma's chatter filling the spaces between adult silences. Michael admired how Sophia's professional composure melted around his daughter. Sophia noticed how his stern exterior softened with every dad look. When Emma's science project on germs hit a snag, Michael found himself walking to Sophia's garden. Could you maybe help her with bacteria versus viruses? Their kitchen table became a miniature lab, glitter, soap, food dye everywhere. Sophia's explanations turned complex science into play. Michael laughed harder than he had in years. Dinner followed, pasta and laughter, and something that felt dangerously close to home. Later, with Emma asleep on the couch, Sophia handed him a wet dish. She's remarkable, she said softly. You've done an amazing job. It was the kind of validation he didn't know he'd been starving for. A week later, his truck broke down outside the hospital. He was delivering a donated bookshelf to the pediatric wing. Sophia brought coffee, sleeves rolled up, laughing as they worked together to unload. Their hands brushed briefly, just enough to jolt them both. When Emma's crayon drawing slipped from under the seat, 3 stick figures at a table. Sophia paused. Looks like family, she murmured. The silence that followed said what neither dared to. The invitation to Sunday dinner came from Emma herself. You should come, she declared. Dad makes lasagna, unless he burns it. That evening, Sophia arrived with homemade apple crumble, her grandmother's recipe. After dinner, they took Emma to the rooftop to find consolations for her school project. She fell asleep between them, small hand clutching Sophia's sleeve. She trusts you, Michael said quietly. She doesn't trust easily. Children know who really sees them, Sophia replied. They sat beneath the stars, both aware how naturally their lives had begun to align. By early summer, the line between friendship and something deeper blurred quietly. Michael noticed in the way Sophia's laughter lingered in his workshop, how her voice steadied him when bills or repairs went wrong. Emma began drawing pictures with 4 figures instead of 2. When Sophia stayed late to help with school fundraiser, Emma whispered, I wish he could stay forever. But forever was fragile. That week, Sophia's pass returned, an email from Boston General Hospital's legal department. The investigation she triggered years ago had finally led to convictions. She was vindicated, and an old colleague wanted her to return, offering a senior position and full clearance. It was everything she'd lost and everything that might take her away. She sat on Michael's porch that evening, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of tea. "They cleared my name," she said quietly. "That's great news," he said, meaning it, but something in his chest ached. "They want me back in Boston." The word Boston hit harder than she expected. Emma's laughter floated through the window. "You should go," he said finally. "You fought for that chance." "I'm not sure I want any more." He turned away. "Don't stay because of us. You'll resent it." When she left that night, her heart felt heavy with every step. Days passed in muted tones. Michael threw himself into work. The workshop echoed with the sound of unfinished furniture, like conversations that never found their endings. Emma sensed a shift, but didn't understand it. Then came the storm. A warehouse fire broke out downtown. Michael had volunteered to help move supplies from the community center next door. When the roof collapsed, part of the debris pinned him beneath splintered beams. By the time paramedics arrived, he was barely conscious. At the hospital, Sophia saw his name flash across the intake list. Without hesitation, she sprinted down the corridor. Blood, smoke, chaos, none of it mattered. She grabbed his hand through the bandages, tears streaking her cheeks. "You don't get to leave," she whispered fiercely. "Not yet. Not like this." Michael's eyes fluttered open. "You came back," he rasped. "I never left," she said. He survived, though recovery was slow. The fire destroyed most of his workshop. Insurance wouldn't cover the damages. The community rallied, neighbors, market vendors, parents from Emma's school. They rebuilt, plank by plank, driven by the quiet reputation of the man who'd helped everyone else. Sophia became his constant visitor. She helped with therapy, kept Emma's spirits high, and insisted he rest. Their bond deepened through small gestures. Homemade soup, shared silences, late-night conversations about lost dreams. When he could finally walk again, he found her sitting in the rebuilt workshop, tracing the grain of the maple cutting board he'd once gifted her. "You fixed it," she said. "It was never really broken," he replied. "Neither were we," she whispered. Still, the offer in Boston loomed. One afternoon, she confessed that she'd turned it down. "I realized something," she said. "Redemption isn't about going back. It's about building something better where you are." Michael smiled softly. "You're sure?" "I'm tired of running." "This," she gestured around at the workshop at him, at the sound of Emma's laughter upstairs. "This feels like home." He stepped closer. "Then stay." When he kissed her, it wasn't beginning or an ending. It was the quiet recognition of two people who had already chosen each other long before they admitted it. Months later, the workshop reopened as Bennett and Chin Woodworks. Their designs now included handcrafted hospital furniture, small cribs, therapy toys, ergonomic benches, all donated to pediatric wards. Word spread, orders multiplied, but they kept their promise. One piece a week went to charity. At the reopening, Emma cut the ribbon with a grin too wide for her face. The mayor gave a short speech, but the moment that mattered came afterward. Sophia kneeling beside Emma, saying, "You're the reason all this exists. You taught me to believe in family again." Emma hugged her fiercely. "You already are family." Life didn't turn perfect. Bills still came. Clients still complained. The rain still leaked through the roof some nights. But there was laughter between the struggles, warmth between the silences. Sophia returned to nursing part-time, balancing compassion and craft. Michael found joy in designing again, not just surviving. Every Friday night, the Monopoly board came out. Now, 3 sets of hands moved the tokens. Sophia always lost, on purpose. Emma always caught her bluff. And Michael, as always, pretended not to notice. One autumn evening, they took a drive up the old coastal road, Emma asleep in the back seat. The radio hummed softly. Outside, waves crashed against the cliffs. Sophia rested her head on Michael's shoulder. "Do you ever wonder," she said, "how everything would have turned out if you hadn't stopped that night in the rain?" He smiled. "No," he said, "because I did." The windshield reflected the faint glow of the dashboard, the same warmth that had begun that stormy night. Sophia's hand found his. The road curved ahead, dark but steady, the kind you trusted even when you couldn't see what came next. Epilogue. A year later, on a rainy Tuesday, exactly 1 year after that first ride, Michael opened the shop door to find Sophia waiting with a sealed envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Partnership agreement," she said. "Official this time. 50-50. He smirked. "You already own half my heart." "Good," she said, signing the last line. "Now I want the workshop, too." They laughed, and somewhere behind them, Emma called out, "Hurry up. We're going to be late for movie night," as they locked the door and stepped into the rain. Neither reached for an umbrella. Some storms, they knew, were worth standing in together.